Hi everyone, it's time again for the top 10 games of the year of 2017. So before we get started, there's a few things as with last year that I still haven't played. You know, there's Pandemic Rising Tide just came out, Fog of Love hasn't come yet, what are those, Ex Libris, just things that I haven't gotten around to. So hopefully I'll do an update video in a few months if anything changes. And also there are a few things that just missed out on the top 10 but are still really worth mentioning, I think, like escape room games like Exit and Unlock. While I preferred Exit, they're both really fantastic games. Nussfjord, a really solid game from Uwe Rosenberg. Sagrada, a really beautiful dice game of building stained glass windows. And Flatline, a really great real-time co-op game from Kane Klenko, who designed Fuse. This is like Fuse's big brother, an actual, 45-minute, hour-long board game based on, well, not the same concept, but it's similar. Anyway, never mind. Top 10 time. So, I've done playthroughs for most of these, apart from a couple, and this is one of them. So, number 10 is Otis, and this is, there'll be a playthrough coming soon of it, but this is a game where we have these divers and we're trying to, retrieve certain things from under the sea, and you are activating different, every time you activate one of your things, depending on which row it is, will activate a special power which can really change things up. It's a very puzzly game. It could be maybe a bit of a analysis paralysis game if you have trouble with that, but it was a really fantastic experience. It's always enhanced by, I tend to play two players a lot with my girlfriend Rachel, and whenever she really enjoys a game as well, it really enhances it, so that's definitely a big plus for it. But it's just a really nice thing, and there's a lot of, there's no real, malice or doing things on purpose, but some people's moves can really change the central board a lot. Like the powers that you get, there is one person that makes you shift them all along, so now activating your one row, instead of giving you one bonus, will now give you a completely different one, so your plans might be completely altered, for better or for worse, by what other people are doing, indirectly, which is always what we prefer. But it's a really fantastic thing. You're trying to get these cubes from various locations, and depending where the diver was that got the cube, you put the cube on that level, and then you're trying to fulfill missions that want certain combinations of cubes to go on there. It's just a really lovely, puzzly, meaty, beautiful thing. That's Otis. Number 9 is Pandemic Legacy Season 2, which, I'm surprised that it's so low, really. But, and we had a really great time with it. I think as I've done a playthrough for it and done much longer first impressions than I'll get into here. But, it definitely improves on Season 1 in some ways, but in other ways, like, it definitely gives you more freedom. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that. It gives you more options if you maybe were missing that in Season 1, but that does lead to some issues of its own. But in general, it's just another great Pandemic Legacy experience. It takes you on, a really great journey, and as I said, the story is better than in Season 1, and, the scope of what it's doing certainly is, but I think that maybe, the only thing that was holding it back was just maybe because Season 1 was our first time, that I still have that high up in my mind. And there were frustrating times with it, but still, overall, it's just a fantastic experience playing these legacy games. Unlocking the story, and as simple as it is, even in games that aren't quite legacy, where they're unlocking their content over multiple games, where you're unlocking envelopes and things like that, it's a very simple trick, but it's surprisingly effective. And when it's combined with, it does change Pandemic up as well. I was going to say when it's combined with a really solid game like Pandemic, but the base game itself this time is shifted somewhat. Again, without spoiling anything specifically, then it's not your standard Pandemic right from the get-go. So it's got its own fresh feeling from the start there, but it depends on how well you take to that new game. But it's even though it's only at number 9, that there are so many good games this year, but I think that still says something. That's Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Number 8 is Spirit Island, which is a cooperative game where we are the spirits of an island that is being colonized. People are coming to our island and blighting it. Basically, they are doing their modern ways and destroying the natural way of things, and the native people and things. So it's a quite a different concept, story wise, framing wise, but the game itself, it's a cooperative game of trying to rid the board of these well, not invaders, these settlers, but to us they're invaders. But it's a really nice co-op idea, but combined with quite a meaty, certainly a much heavier experience than we usually used to in co-ops. And that's not to say that we don't really enjoy all of the co-ops that we've got, but yeah, they don't tend to be these much thinkier, heavier experiences, and Spirit Island is certainly that, to the point where trying to play it, well, doing it for the playthrough, 2 players just by yourself, it can be a struggle to try and think. You have so many options and there are so many permutations. It's the hallmark of a great co-op where it does, that you can't really quarterback it, you can't really take control and tell people what to do, because just your spirit has its own unique way of unlocking things. It has its own unique set of starting cards, its own unique powers and things that, certain things that it does really well, certain things it's not so good at. And a good part of it is that you will be so concerned with what you're doing and trying to say, well, I can do this. Is this, is this any good? What were you planning to do? Well, I was planning on doing this completely different thing. Okay, well, if I do this now and then this, then this will all go off in one great big combo, hopefully. It's one of those games where it really encourages the, well, you need to cooperate. You really do need to work together and maximize the effectiveness of your moves to stand a chance, really, because it can be a tough game as well. But it's one that's got lots of different difficulty levels. It evolves as well. When you start the game, you are just trying to rid the island of all of these, all of the figures, basically all of the settler figures. You just want to get rid of them all, and then you win. But you can strike fear into the hearts of these settlers, and if you do enough of it, you will unlock some powers along the way. But you also, your win condition changes, so now maybe you only have to get rid of the villages or the cities to be able to win, and that's a really nice touch too. But overall, yeah, just a really nice looking, really, like, the names of the spirits are beautiful. It would be good if I could remember one right now, wouldn't it? It kind of removes my point a little bit if I can't remember one, but they're good, trust me. But yeah, a really great game overall, that Spirit Island. Number 7 is Santa Maria. So this came out at Essen. I did a video just before it yeah, there's a playthrough of most of these. I said that, I think. But it's a game where we have our individual player boards, and they have certain locations to activate at the start, and we will be buying new tiles and laying them out on our board and trying to get paths and things, trying to get connections maybe for certain point scoring opportunities that have come out in that game. But the main thing is we want more buildings out that maybe generate us resources or convert resources into points or other resources and things. And the way you activate them is, instead of using your turn to build or something, you use your turn to draft one of these dice, and that will activate a column of your board, and then you have to put the dice on, which means on the last building activated, which means that can't be activated again this round. And as you progress along certain tracks, you'll unlock different dice that can activate rows. And so it's a nice puzzle of not only trying to get a good layout and trying to be able to activate as many things as possible in one activation, but then there's the added thing of dice drafting is a really fantastic thing. I really love it. But and one of the great things about it is, well, how long do you wait? Do you wait to try and get your rows maximized so that you're going to be earning a ton of things when you finally draft that too, but it's the only one there? How long can you wait for the other people to do it? It's just a it was a really nice time. It's a really solid game. You're trying to advance along priest tracks to try and unlock those special blue dice, but also you will get monks that you can put on special abilities that you can unlock for the rest of the game, or special point scoring things, which at first lose you points as well, so you have to work towards them. And you're shipping goods that will earn you points at the end of the game, but will also generate you some income of points or money or things round by round. It's just a really great game, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. I've really had fun with it. That is 7 Santa Maria. Number 6 was from much earlier this year. It's Clans of Caledonia. This was a really successful Kickstarter early on in the year. I did a solo playthrough for it that you can go and check out, and I picked up a final copy at Essen, but the prototype that I had that I made the video of is probably pretty much the same thing, really. But this is a game where we are trying to spread out. I think I said it in the first impressions and things when I've mentioned this. I bring up, as a lot of people do, things like comparisons to Terra Mystica and Voyages of Marco Polo and Navigador, which I haven't played, but it's part of those references. And they are more than what Clans is like itself. They are the influences that the designer drew on to kind of combine them and add his own flavour to make Clans of Caledonia its own thing, really. So it's not that it's like Terra Mystica, but it's got a hex map like Terra Mystica, and you will be, you'll be spreading out with, putting cows and sheep and, maybe dairy farms and workers in the mountain, like miners and woodcutters and things. You will be laying those out, and as in Terra Mystica, as you remove things from your player board, you generate more things. You uncover things that, when you do the income, are going to generate more resources for you. And everybody's got their own unique clan that has got a very powerful special power, a very unique and something that seems overpowered. That's kind of the Marco Polo thing, where everything's so overpowered, so so it ends up balanced, because everyone's got their own unique avenue that they can try and take advantage of the most. And you're trying to fulfill contracts to get points and more resources and things. You're trying to import resources, and depending on, if you imported tobacco but you did the most of it, tobacco is worth the fewest points each. It's a bit of a strange system, but it's a nice touch that you want to balance. You don't just want to pour everything into one particular resource. It's got a market that fluctuates depending on what the players are doing. So if you buy a good from the market, then the price goes up because demand is increased, and similarly, if you sell, then the price gets driven down, and you can use that to your advantage as well. Especially if you're one of the clans that can, say buy milk for a certain price. I think it's sell milk for a certain price. But anyway, yeah, it's all about trying to unlock those things, and it's got, similar to Terra Mystica again, it's got neighbouring bonuses you get discounts for building closer to other people, so there's that to consider as well. And then you've got unique scoring every round, and there are ports on the board that you can activate for special powers. It's just a really, really great game, and yeah, it's great that it's finally got here, because I really, really, as I said, it was a really successful Kickstarter, and I think it's been the buzz has been really high for it since Essen, and it's doing really, really well, which is just great, really, because I really enjoyed it. That's Clans of Caledonia. Number 5 is Keyper, and it's not just on here because it's got magical folding boards, although that is a significant factor in it. But yeah, I was based on our experience with key games, we've only played Keyflower before, and I remember quite enjoying it. It's quite a few years ago now, but Rach really didn't like it. I think the auction part was really didn't gel with her. But yeah, anyway, so that's been our only experience. So for that reason alone, I was kind of wary going into Keyper, but mainly driven by folding boards, because that's what I'm like. But yeah, when we actually got it, it's this beautiful worker placement game where you can place a worker, and if it's the right color, you will get bonus activations. So like a field space is green, and I can get a wood there. But if I send a green worker, then I will get 2 wood. And then it goes around the table. If I place a worker, everybody has the option of whether to follow me or not, and you need certain colors to be able to follow me. But if you follow me, we both get more resources. And then later on, you can lay down workers that are already stood up. So if you've got no more keeples left to place, you can lay them down and get bonus activations out of that. So you don't necessarily want the most workers, because sometimes laying down existing ones is way more powerful, and you claim boards, so you aren't going to get the same colours every round, and as I said, not the same number of keepers every round. It's just a really, really interesting system. And then it's wrapped up in, there are fairs every year that you are trying to get the right resources for to get points. You are building on your personal player board as well, which is also a place where you can activate, you can place your keepers to activate those buildings, and you're trying to build stables and things to add animals. It's got a ton of different types of resources. The box is just crammed with stuff, and yeah, it's got at first, it seems like just an interesting gimmick that it's got these magic boards, but they end up being a really nice system for you get to, as I said, you claim the board and you take the keepers off it, and you're going to have those for next round, but then you get to decide how that player board's going to be oriented. You've got some restriction. You have to have a certain symbol showing depending on what season it is, but you basically, if you really, really need a certain resource or a certain animal, then you can make sure that there's going to be at least one action space where you can do that. Or if you really want to make sure that a certain space isn't available, you can try and do that as well. But yeah, I was really surprised that, well, not really surprised. I know that they're really good games, but yeah, based on that only experience that we had, as I said, I was a bit tentative about it, but it really really surprised me, and I was really impressed by it. That yeah, it's every placement is interesting because you are trying to decide, you know, I don't really want this, you know, this person's gone on this space, I don't really want to follow, I don't particularly want that, but I also want to get all of my keepers out as soon as possible so that I can start doing lay down actions which are potentially more powerful, because, you know, there's only one space for the thing I want and it's already been filled up by other players, so I want to race ahead and try and lay down my people. It's just, yeah, every turn and not just your own turn is a fantastic puzzle, especially in 2 players. You know, if it was 4 players, I would place, and then starting with the player to my left, they would get to decide whether to follow me, and if they say no, it goes to the next person, and so on. In 2 players, it's always, you know, the other person is being asked. So you are, I can't say what it would be like with more players because I've only played it 2, but yeah, you are involved in each other's decisions constantly, and it's just really great, and yeah, just a really nice experience as well. But yeah, I'd definitely check out Keyper. But again, I've got a playthrough for it. You can go and have a look and see if it would be one for you. Number 4, and this is the other one that I haven't got a playthrough for yet, but there will be one coming soon, probably in January, I would hope anyway, because this is fantastic. It's Kitchen Rush, which is one of those games where I've been mentioning a lot throughout the year, you know, from the UK Games Expo and stuff. But this is a real-time cooperative game where we are chefs. Basically, we're trying to run a restaurant. We are, you know, there's a timer running, and we need to get cards that represent the orders that people are placing, and we need to get plates. We need to go to the storerooms to grab ingredients. There is a little cloth bag with spice cubes in it, which is there as, you know, an extra wrinkle that's in the way of you trying to prepare your meals. You know, you can see what's in the storeroom if you're paying attention. It's out on the board, but the spices are hidden away in this bag, so you've got to really communicate with, you know, saying what you're taking out, or constantly asking, you know, is this in the bag? I need this for this order that I've just taken. So no, you've got to go shopping, because that's a different thing you can do. You've got to go to the ovens to make sure it's cooking properly. You might have to go to the office to try and unlock upgrades and things, but it's really great. I've been going on about this partly because yeah, I do like cooperative games. I really like real-time games. Project Elite was that number 2 last year. It's a really fantastic game, and there's been more since. You know, I mentioned Flatline and stuff. But yeah, another thing that was exciting me was the theme of it as well. I really like the restaurant theme, and you know, this seemed like a really good fit for the 2 as well, for, you know, that kind of hectic race for time that is part of real-time games. Just really fits with, you know, you need to get people's orders out on time, and now we're running out of this and we're running out of that, and you need to go and sort that out. It seemed like it would be a really fantastic thing, and like most of these games in the top 10 that I had been really anticipating, it just met those expectations and exceeding them as well. It definitely gives me that experience that I was hoping for, of, you know, that it's definitely a struggle at first. It's harder than you might expect, but it is just, I've found that it's just been fantastic the whole way through. It can, I will just mention, yeah, it can be, yeah, you can watch No Pun Included's video for it, because they make some really good points about it. Like, in co-ops, often when you fail, everybody fails together, and kind of, you know, strengthened by, we could have done this, we could have done this. There are a lot of times in Kitchen Rush where it just falls to one person, that they just weren't good enough. They weren't good at spinning all of these plates, yeah, puns. But yeah, they just weren't good enough, and it can feel a little bit bad for them. But overall, once you get into the rhythm of it, and again, I've only played this 2-player, I think. Once you get into the rhythm and you're communicating with each other really well, and yeah, I'm the person with the spice bag. I'm going to keep you informed on what's in here, and I'm the person that goes shopping. So, you know, you let me know when we need stuff, and I'm going to be the person that keeps going there. You know, you settle into these roles, and it is just really brilliant. And there are, while we've gotten not really good, but become more used to maybe normal difficulty, there's more difficulties beyond that. There are easy modes to step back to if it's a little rough at the start, and yeah, there are all sorts of different kinds of objectives. There are event cards that you can add in. I haven't played with those yet, and yeah, different prestige powers that get unlocked as you add more and more stars to your restaurant. But it's just, as I said, I do like those kinds of games anyway, the stressful, hectic real-time games. But this is definitely, I don't know if it would be the best one. It's up there anyway. You know, it'd be tough deciding between that and Project Elite. I don't decide. It's hard enough deciding between these 10 games for this year, the ordering of these. because it's pretty close between these. Anyway, Kitchen Rush playthrough's coming soon, but take my word for it for now, and you can watch Rado's Kickstarter playthrough for it, but for now you're just gonna have to take my word that I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a really fantastic game. Number 3 is Lisboa, another big beautiful game from Vital Lacerda, with the nice deluxe editions and art from Ian O'Toole and stuff. They did Vinhos Deluxe Edition and Gallerist together, and they're doing CO2 second edition together and all sorts of things. Anyway, Lisboa is, for a start, based on a really interesting real life thing that this often happens, playing board games based on these things, that something I had no idea about. Lisboa was nearly destroyed in the 1700s. It had a tsunami and an earthquake, and then there were fires in the city, and it was pretty much destroyed, and the king set about forming these plans to rebuild it, and that's what we're doing in Lisboa. It's not quite that simple. You are playing a card and doing an action and drawing another card. But the space in between what you're doing there can be massive. It's another one of Vital's games where a lot of the actions affect each other, and you don't have to go one way to achieve your goals. There are so many different ways you can do it, and you will want to crunch on them to try and think about the optimal way, the best bonuses that you can get. But overall, it's just like all of his games have been. They are certainly really meaty, maybe not so simple to learn, although kind of maybe it's because we've played all of his games now that we know more of what to expect. I have seen the reviews of, to mention them again, No Pun Included did their review, and they found it hard to teach to people, but as I've played with Rach most of the time, it's not as much of an issue. Anyway, it's a lot of his games are kind of like these circles where all of the actions affect each other. So at the start you have to be told some information that doesn't really make much sense yet, but it will by the time we go along this circle a bit more, if that makes any sense. I think I'm making less sense than it now. But because of that, it's so beautiful. Everything interacts with each other in a really nice way, and the decision of do I play this card to the court and go and visit these people and pay this influence, and I get the strongest actions, but do I want to use the card to tuck it into my player board, and I get access to different actions, but maybe they're going to be more enhanced. Maybe I'm going to earn more influence now because the card's out here, or I'm going to earn more money, or certain cubes that I'm removing from the rubble of the city are going to be worth less now because I have this special card under here. And it's really nice. As I said, it's based on that real life thing, and the rulebook does do a really nice job, I think, of trying to contextualize everything that you're doing and relate a lot of the stuff back to the story, the real life thing that it's based on, to the point where the artwork is, well, this is what the artwork's based on. Again, I'm not doing it the best service, not remembering myself right now, but yeah, the artwork's there for a reason. They used a particular construction method that used the rubble from the destroyed city, and that's why we're collecting rubble in this game, and that's why the place where we put the rubble has this particular artwork, because that's what they used for that. I really like that relation to it as well, and that can help partly with teaching it. You can kind of keep relating it to, well, this is what we're doing here, and this is the reason that we're doing it. You might have varying success with that, but anyway, it's just another beautiful, massive, brain-burning Vital Lacerda game. But as I said, I tend to love them, and Lisboa has been no exception for me. It's also got a really nice solo variant that is more similar to the Gallerists than Vinhos'. Vinhos' had kind of a deck that the Lacerda player used that is kind of more simulating maybe of an actual player and is more unpredictable, but in the Gallerist and Lisboa, in different ways, they have more predictable people that you can kind of use to your advantage, and I really like that. But anyway, Lisboa, just another beautiful Vital Lacerda game. Number 2 is where the real game's actually going to be obscured by the picture of it. It is Dragonfire, which is the sequel to Shadowrun Crossfire, which is from 2014? Anyway, it's a game that I loved. It's a deck building game, but quite a different deck builder, where the main draw of it is most probably the campaign nature of it. We start characters at the start of the game, and every time we do a mission with those characters, we are going to earn XP. It was Karma in Shadowrun Crossfire, but same thing. And once you get to certain amounts, you will unlock special powers that you stick to the stickers that you put on your character sheets, and now your character can do an extra thing because, you know, the missions are going to get harder, and we are going to unlock more and more stuff as the game goes on. Shadowrun Crossfire is also an incredibly difficult game, and it's a deck builder. There have been a few since that do it in this way, rather than a normal deck builder where you're trying to see the connections between the cards and build up a really good engine that you hope will go off well later. Shadowrun Crossfire is all about, and Dragonfire, I keep saying the old game, but it's all about building for, you know, the turn ahead. Which card can I buy that will be useful right now? It's going to go into, it's going to be available for use right away. What do I need that will, you know, assist the other players, or will block the damage that's going to knock you out, or something like that? It's all about right in the moment, and maybe you're going to get a chance to use them later. You probably are. You're probably going to shuffle it, but not that many times, not as much as a normal deck builder. You need to be really focused on, you know, your strategy of right here and now. Dragonfire is definitely, it's added more rules to Shadowrun, so it can be a little more complex, or it's got a few more situational things to think about. Like, it's got locations and all sorts of, maybe, you know, it's just side little queries that you maybe didn't have with Crossfire, and maybe it has been toned down a little bit. The difficulty is a bit easier. We did play, there have been erratas and things out that maybe if you play it now, some things have been changed from when we played it, because we found a particular mission incredibly hard, and that's been made a lot easier since. So I think they are going for an easier experience than Crossfire, and that was one of the good things about Crossfire, but it does get very, very, you know, it does get tiresome in the end. That, you know, I know that you're a tough game, and I know you're challenging me, but I would really like to win a little bit more often, please. I know that's not an issue for everyone, and some people, you know, have that, wear it with pride of, you know, I've been beaten down by Crossfire, and I'm loving it, and I really enjoyed it too. As I said, I loved Crossfire, but I haven't noticed that Dragonfire is too easy, and a huge plus for Dragonfire is just the amount of content that's been promised for it. An expansion did come out for Crossfire, and it was great, it added more things, but Dragonfire already has got an expansion pack that adds a ton of different character options, because characters can start with special abilities and things this time. It's not just that cards are different. And there is, you know, there's treasure cards in this that you can unlock based on certain circumstances when you are completing missions. There is an expansion that just gives more treasure cards. There are expansions that are going to add more, you know, adventures and storylines, because that is another, you know, huge plus for Dragonfire, that it comes with a little campaign book, and over the course of, I think, 5 different missions, we're going to play through a story and make some choices and things, as well as leveling up our characters and everything. Like in the core, you know, just D&D box says, you know, well, this starting adventure will get you to a certain level. That's what Dragonfire is trying to do as well. It says, you know, this playing through these missions will get you to this level, and then you can buy this next expansion, which, you know, it's got its pros and cons, hasn't it? On the downside, as I've said with LCGs, why I've never really wanted to get involved with an LCG. It's like, well, if I really do love one, that is an endless train of me constantly buying stuff for it. Now though, Dragonfire's come along, and it's not an LCG, but yeah, I'm in that situation now. It's got all this content promised, and I want it all. I want to experience all of it. We need to go back and finish our, you know, main campaign that's in the box, but that's good, because I don't know if the expansion's come out in America yet, but I don't think the story expansion has come out in England yet. Hopefully I'll be getting hold of, you know, the characters and the treasure cards and things, because they were just, you know, I just want more stuff, even if I'm not using it, even if I'm sticking with the character that I've got now that I've, you know, put time in and leveled up. I want to see all of those different race and class combinations that you can get, because that, as I said at the start, that is a huge plus for Crossfire and Dragonfire, that it's got this, you know, I could play all of these other games, but if I go back and play Dragonfire, then my character, it gets closer to that next unlock, it gets stronger, it's permanently keeping these things, I'm permanently evolving my character, and it is such a strong plus point for me that you know, I love those games. But Dragonfire for me is probably going to be the one that I stick with for now anyway. They did mention that there's going to be more Crossfire stuff. I really hope for that still, and I'm definitely interested in playing it, but for now Dragonfire has definitely replaced it for me. It's just fantastic, and yeah, check it out. Again, I've done a playthrough for it, and you can go see if it would be one for you. And finally, number one will probably come as no surprise to people that have seen a few of my videos. It's behind my head, actually. Yeah, I had been going on about this game for a long time before it finally arrived, and at this point, yeah, there have been a huge number of people have joined in on the journey now as well, because number one is Gloomhaven. I had been talking about this for a while. As I said, it was my most anticipated game of the year. You know, right from when, was it 3 years ago now? I don't know if it was quite 3 years ago, when the Kickstarter happened, and Rado and Joel Eddy of Drive Through Review all did these, you know, Rado did a run through and previews of the prototypes for Gloomhaven, a game where we are, you know, in this fantasy RPG setting, and we are in a dungeon, and we have this really nice system of, you know, you have this hand of cards that's unique to your character, and you need to play two of them, and you will do the top action of one and the bottom action of another, and the decision space that gives you is beautiful. You know, you really get used to how your character works, and you will unlock different ones as the game goes on as well. It's not a game like can happen in legacy games, where you are maybe a little bit too driven by opening boxes than by just playing the game itself. Gloomhaven is definitely one where opening the boxes is just a nice treat. You're enjoying the game so much that it's just you are definitely looking forward to it, but not like, you know, the game is still fantastic in the meantime. We're not just focused on that. We're focused on just the pure joy of just playing through it. I've played, I don't know how many times now. It must be my most played game. We've played about 70, 80 times. Loads and loads and loads of times. I stopped keeping track as much this year. But yeah, it's just been a beautiful time playing through it. When Rach and I were doing our campaign 2 players, I'd definitely say that I'd prefer it at 2 players. It's snappier, it's easier to get what you want done. 4 players, it can go a little bit long sometimes. Not that we haven't been enjoying it 4 players in another campaign that we've been playing, but yeah, and sometimes the nature, you can't quite say what you want to do in Gloomhaven, so having 4 players can sometimes you get in each other's way a lot more, but that's kind of just part of it. But yeah, we played through. There was a point where, you know, it came in February, I think, the first Kickstarter delivered, and there was a good 2-month stretch where we were playing it most nights. We were just so, you know, involved. Eventually, you know, I had to stop neglecting all of the other games that I needed to do for videos. But yeah, for that period, it was just, you know, we were just consumed by this game. It's definitely, I'll say that I have seen a lot of people disappointed that were maybe expecting more of an RPG experience, more storytelling or role-playing and things like that, where the game is definitely a dungeon crawl game first and foremost. It's got things beyond that, definitely. It's got, you know, it's got the history of Gloomhaven in there. It's got an evolving story as we play through and make choices, and we will be, you know, cutting off certain storylines by, you know, making a deal with a person, or if you kill this thing, then you can't do a quest for it anymore. You know, that kind of thing is happening constantly. But even outside of that, there is, you know, there's nearly 100 scenarios in there, and I think you play about between 70 and 80 depending on choices that you made. You know, some will be locked out, as I said, but there's just a vast amount of content in here. That has been another huge plus for it. It comes in such an enormous box that is just jam-packed with, I said, a ton of scenarios. It comes with so many different character classes that you will unlock at different rates that all play vastly differently, I'll say as well. I've played, you know, I've played 6, 7 different characters now, and yeah, all, you know, require different ways of thinking, and all, you know, within those very different characters, there are different ways, you know, of playing just that character. You don't have to go in a certain way. You can adapt them to the way that you want to play, and as you might expect, certain combinations of them will lead to certain really powerful things, or you know, really working well together. You know, I don't want to spoil what any of the things are in there, but yeah, we've had some fantastic times in there. I would definitely say that, yeah, it's not too I don't want to put any other games down when I'm talking about Gloomhaven, and maybe too hyperbolic about it, but it's absolutely been the best experience in gaming this year by far. You know, not to put anything down to the others in the top 10, but it's definitely, you know, it's kind of in a league of its own. It needs to be in a different top video, really, to give everyone a fair chance, because it's for me anyway, and all of them are for me, I shouldn't say that. For me anyway, it's just so head and shoulders above any other dungeon crawl game that I have tried. And yeah, just to be so invested in your characters and this world and the path that we are taking through it, and you know, there are event decks that you go through before every scenario, and you make choices in there that can sometimes affect the future of the event deck and things. It's got so many ideas. That is, as I said, there's a lot of content in that box, but also, yeah, just the scope and the mad genius of Isaac, the designer, deciding to put that amount in one box. It is just beautiful, and I love that there is, even after the ridiculous amount that we have played Gloomhaven, there is still so much more to discover. And if we did want to go back and reset it at some point, we could still go in completely different directions and find some stuff, or play some characters, or unlock certain cards for characters that would change the game quite a lot. We would still, you know, experience a lot of the same stuff, I imagine, but we could certainly go in very, very different avenues, because, as I said, things get locked off as you play through it. But yeah, definitely, as I said, it's absolutely been my favourite thing. It's been a joy to play through so much and spend so much time in Gloomhaven. And yeah, I've never talked that much, really, I don't think, about you know, top games in general, but I would say that at the moment, and I can't really see it changing with any other games in the near future, but yeah, I'd like to be surprised. For now, I would say it's absolutely my number one of all time now. It has definitely shot up to there. Just for, you know, even if we were just measuring it by playtime or something, it would be miles ahead of probably any other game that I've played. But yeah, the fact that we have been driven to that just by a burning desire to keep going back to Gloomhaven, that is still there as well. As I said, we are not playing it as much as we were in the start, but it's still a thing where, you know, it's quite it's certainly more regular than any other game that we have, where it's constantly like, it's Gloomhaven time now. You know, with the group of 4 that we've got playing through, it's been quite a regularly scheduled thing, and it's been really good to stick to that and keep doing it, and to see other people as well. You know, we've gone through a lot of this stuff. We are seeing some stuff that we haven't seen before, but you know, to see their reactions to it, and to see, you know, to know what the character they're about to unlock is, to know what they're working towards, and you know, see their reaction as they find out, as they discover parts of the story, as they discover how certain enemies work, as they discover what their characters can do as they unlock their ability cards throughout the game. It's just fantastic, and I'm going to stop talking about it now, because I could have just, you know, doubled the length of the video and just kept talking about Gloomhaven. But it's fantastic. I think it's incredible. It's yeah, definitely not 100% perfect, but I think, yeah, it's definitely a 10 for me, just for being, you know, the absolute best in its class for what it is doing. It's absolutely the best dungeon crawler far and away for me. And as I said, I'm just repeating myself, it is incredible. That is Gloomhaven. So that is it. That is the top 10 for 2017. A really, really fantastic year. And that's it, really. I will be back next week for, you know, the top anticipated games of next year. Already we're thinking about next year. And yeah, there'll be a wrap-up video like there was last year and stuff. But for now, you know, have a good Christmas and think about more great games. Gloomhaven though, eh? Gloomhaven? Gloomhaven.